You're listening to The Green Flag with your hosts, Lukas Wacker and Kyle Cushman.
Time to give some love to the Canadians, shall we? The next award for today, the Canadian Driver of the Year. And, you know, they're few and far between in a lot of the lands of motorsports and a lot of different series, but there were some guys that could definitely be drawn to and can catch your eye that did have some good performances in 2022. So, Kyle, do you want to lead us off with the Canadian Driver of the Year, your third nomination?
Let's do it. Number 3 for me. And for starters, I think it's important to remember that this is looking at the Canadian driver that had kind of like the best year rather than looking for the best Canadian driver. Because in that case, you're looking to Formula One and stuff like that, most likely. And
Nicholas
looking
Latifi.
for people that finish at the back of the grid. That's not the point of this award. This award is to highlight Canadian drivers that had success relative in their series.
Yes.
I think it's important to say that first. So number 3 for me on the short list is Stuart Friesen. Another very consistent season in the truck series this year. Picked up a win, had a really strong season, a lot of top 5s, a lot of top 10s. And it's important to remember that this is a really tough truck series with a lot of teams that can go out and contend for wins, for top 5s, top 10s, everything like that. This is a team that is Friesen based, and they actually ended up expanding to a second car for a handful of races. And that's some success there as well. So I think overall, looking at Mr. Consistent in the truck series there, Stuart Friesen, picking up a win, having a really solid season, didn't end up quite getting into that championship 4, but made the penultimate round of the playoffs as well. I think overall, he's a guy that deserves some love from the Canadian perspective. It came up to Canada as well, had the race at Oswego, had a nice little finish there. But I think he gets the number 3 nod for myself.
We're seeing eye to eye here. Stuart Friesen is my number 3 as well.
Nice.
I don't know if we nominated him last time we did this. I can't quite remember.
I feel like we did, but I can't remember.
I think he had a rough year in 2020. Had a bit of a down year at the points.
That was the down year.
And we couldn't quite give him a nomination. But this year had a bit of more of a bounce back, and you got to give Stuart Friesen some love. Was very close. He has not quite made that championship 4 as of yet, but it feels like he's knocking on the door each and every year. He's definitely a round of 8 contender. It feels like when he has the team behind him and the truck underneath them. But yeah, got to win this year in a very tough truck series. Very competitive truck series season. There wasn't a guy that really broke away from the field wins wise this year. Had some surprises throughout the playoffs as well, but he was right there and definitely deserves a nomination for this award. Mr. Consistent, like you said, in the truck series. Stuart Friesen gets some love. 3rd place for myself as well for the Canadian Driver of the Year. 2nd place, since we have the same, I'll go here for this next one. Devlin DeFrancesco gets 2nd place for me here. I mean, by Andretti Motorsports standards, that was not the greatest equipment, getting the most out of the equipment. He was very much back in the back half of the top 15, early 20s for a lot of the year for consistency wise. Didn't end up getting a top 10 as well this year. So that's obviously a disappointment, but he is at least in the top level of IndyCar and a good team. And you hope that he's laid the groundwork here for at least a bounce back year in 2023. But not what they were looking for consistency wise, but to be, to go from Indy Lights and then, we gave him a shout out, honestly, the last time we did this award show, because we had the DeFrancescos getting in on our Twitter polls. We didn't end up doing that this time around, but nonetheless, Devlin DeFrancesco had a couple of bright moments here and there throughout the year, and
good qualifying effort in Toronto.
Exactly. And just those kind of things you got to hit on for a guy like that who's very young, inexperienced at a top level of IndyCar, but still to be able to be around, the likes of a Jimmy Johnson, or, I mean, that's not saying much at the end of the day with Jimmy Johnson per se, but to be around a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion who did have some very bright spots on the ovals this year is not too shabby at the end of the day. So Devlin DeFrancesco gets 2nd place for myself.
Number 2 for myself, we're going to the specifics here. We mentioned how this award is for success relative to the series, all that kind of stuff. And I think that most applies to this next pick here, and that's John Ferrano out of IMSA, the LMP2 champion. This is where it comes into play because he is a silver driver. He is the kind of quote unquote amateur or secondary tier driver for the LMP2 series for the number 8 Tower Motorsports car that he drove in this year. So he wasn't the professional driver in that car. He had lots of different help with Louis Delatraz stepping in that car at times, as well as Stevens, that kind of stuff. But he was still there in that car and getting success, ended up winning the LMP2 championship, the consistent driver all year long in that Tower Motorsport vehicle. And for that reason, the 59-year-old Canadian gets the nod for me for having a very, very strong year in a tough LMP2 category for myself. So he gets the number 2 nod here for Canadian Driver of the Year.
My winner for the Canadian Driver of the Year goes to none other than Marc-Antoine Camirand, the Pinty Series champion for 2022. Just a dominant season overall. Ended up having 3 wins, tied with the most with Kevin Lacroix for the Pinty Series season, but led a whopping 803 laps compared to the next highest, which was 362 with Brandon Watson. So, to win the championship, we've had a lot of close battles in Pinty Series history for the championship. To win it by 27 points is actually a pretty large margin. And to clinch the championship by basically just starting the final race there was very, very impressive. And for the age that he's at, to be able to come back into a season like this and get paired with his crew chief that he had been familiar with for years and years ago, and they were able to find that success and beat a lot of, the heavy hitters. I don't know if he kind of predicted that they would have this much success when I talked to him at the beginning of the year. I mean, he was shooting for it, but a lot of people were pointing to, Trayton Lapsevich to take that next step and win. DJ Kennington's always up there, Kevin Lacroix. But then also you look at what LP Dumoulin has been doing there. There's a lot of good Canadian drivers up there, but for Camirand to wipe the floor with them that handily was very impressive. So he's easily my Canadian Driver of the Year.
And I completely agree. Fantastic year for Camirand, finally breaking through for that first ever championship. Yeah. And I think because you said it great yourself, I think I'll take this opportunity to remind people to watch the Pinty Series because it's really, really good racing every single week. That race at Edge Weekend with the great finish with Friesen and Lapsevich, just like so many great races all year long. If you're ever looking for great short track road course racing,
an obscure NASCAR series, man, it has some good stuff,
top tier stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely something that should be on your radar to watch. Marc-Antoine Camirand, definitely the easy choice for Canadian Driver of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. He sweeps it between the both of us. Once again, another award sweep, but deservedly so. Congratulations to Marc-Antoine Camirand on a very, very successful 2022 season. We'll see what he does in 2023. Can he repeat that Pinty Series championship?